Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Right here live on NBTV. Today we have none other than Congressman Hank Johnson. Of course, the Congressman of the 4th District in the state of Georgia, and of course the county of DeKalb. How do you feel, of course, about what is taking place in our country today as it relates to the Syria initiative?
Well, I tell you, I'm very happy that the trajectory that we're on is one of diplomacy. And I believe that that is the best way to keep the issue of chemical weapons and keep the use of chemical weapons right at the top of everyone's agenda. It was indeed horrific. If you take all of the accounts of what happened, if you take those at face value, it was a horrific situation. But that does not mean that we should jump to conclusions, because a lot of the times what appears to be is not actually the way that it is.
This week, when I addressed the nation on Syria, I said that in part because of the credible threat of U.S. military force, there is the possibility of a diplomatic solution. Russia's indicated a new willingness to join with the international community in pushing Syria to give up its chemical weapons, which the Assad regime used in an attack that killed more than 1,000 people on August 21st.
Congressman, let me ask you this. I mean, we all know, of course, that Assad could have possibly chemicalized his citizens, of course. And it's definitely horrific, as you stated. Do you feel like we need to, of course, act, or you think what our president is doing right now as it relates to taking the diplomatic process is where we should be taking with this particular issue?
Yeah, I believe that the president has been busy. The president and his team have been busily working diplomatically since this situation occurred. And it's clear that the fruits of the discussions that he has had with the nation of Russia have now borne some fruit. And we see progress being made. Yesterday, the Syrian government joined the UN and international ban on the use of chemical weapons. And so it removed itself from the list of 7 nations that had not signed that treaty. And so now there are only 6. And so now the talks are ongoing as to how these chemical weapons can be secured by an international body and then safeguarded and eventually disposed of.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying that, of course, as it relates to international affairs, and of course Syria itself is going in the right direction as it relates to bringing the world in what we would call a lasting world peace.
Well, I think that this is definitely a move towards a more peaceful Middle East and therefore a more peaceful world. A lot of things need to be done on the over in the Middle East to actually stabilize it and make it a more peaceful area of the world. And so I think that diplomacy is the way to do that, as opposed to military use or the use of hard power, particularly when it's unilateral as opposed to multinational.
Let me ask you this, Congressman. I mean, right here in the district of DeKalb, getting away, of course, from the Syria particular initiative, I think the president has his claws on that particular initiative, and we're going to fare out pretty well here as American citizens.
I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful of that.
But let's move to jobs. And of course, you being a congressman, it is your job, of course, to see to it that your district here in District 4 in DeKalb County in the state of Georgia gets a fair shake as it relates to jobs. What are you doing to help increase jobless individuals here in the District 4 in Georgia?
Well, I tell you, I've got some legislation that incentivizes the growth of small businesses. Small businesses are the actual engine of job creation here in America. And so anything that levels the playing field for small businesses and incentivizes the entrepreneurs and the startups will produce jobs. And so I'm focused on that area. But I will tell you, it's like putting a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. The federal budget and the fact that Congress can't seem to get its act together and pass one. And each year we have a fiscal cliff that we face. It's really tearing up the United States economy, which leads the world economy, by the way. So, you know, at this point with the September 30th deadline for producing a 2014 budget, if we don't do that between now and then that means that there's a shutdown of the federal government. A couple of weeks thereafter will come the debt ceiling, and the president has announced that he's not going to be negotiating on the elevation of the debt ceiling, and that's the way that it should be. But we still have folks on the other side of the aisle, the Republicans, who want to use the debt ceiling vote as an opportunity to get rid of Obamacare or, you know, some other collateral issues that they want to stick onto that. And it's just not going to work. And it appears that we are setting up a classic clash between the Tea Party Republicans and everybody else in the Congress and the president.
Well, it seems to me, of course, because of the possible government shutdown, you as a congressman will be ineffective as it relates to helping your constituents get the jobs
That's exactly
that they need to effectively take care of their families.
the federal government, through the revenues that it creates or generates, casts off that money back into the economy. And based on that, small businesses, large businesses, they prosper.
Mm-hmm.
When you shut down the government or when you cut the federal budget as it's been cut, $1.2 trillion in the last 3 years, and actually about 1.3 trillion now with sequestration kicking in. When you take that much money out of an economy that is still struggling to emerge from the Great Recession, then it means your job creating numbers are lower than they should be. I think this last report was about 169,000 jobs created last month, and that is a weak benchmark. 169,000 last month.
Where should we be, Congressman?
Well, we're struggling to get to a point where our economy is growing by about 4%. And right now, I believe it's like 2.3, 2.4% growth, as it has been for the last 4 or 5 years. And so and the projections as far as growth in the budget, growth in the economy, are in keeping with that number, that low number, about 2.4%. And so we've got other nations whose economies are exploding, 8-9%. China, Brazil, India, even countries in Africa.
South Africa.
Kenya,
Wow.
I think is growing at the rate of about 10%
That's
a year.
interesting.
And Rwanda, your growth rate 8%. So these are the economies that America is in position to take a part of in terms of trade. And if we're not creating the jobs that produce the goods and services
Absolutely.
that can then be traded,
Absolutely.
we are ceding that territory to other nations.
Wow. Well, I tell you, Congressman, I mean, I represent NBTV, one of the most technological sound small businesses, not only in America, but in the world. And we would truly be willing to work with the federal government, men like yourself, Congressman, to help put us in a situation from a grant perspective to provide jobs for many citizens around the country and teach them the technology that's being used that could put us in a situation where we can even be competitive with Google and begin to not only employ Americans, but also employ other people around the world.
Well, I'm going to tell you that our Department of Defense is the largest consumer of goods and services of America. It's the biggest part of the budget, and that money goes out to various contractors for various purposes. Things like public relations,
Absolutely.
things like counterterrorism, to help people in countries that may be our enemies, to help them understand us better. And so, we produce film, and we deal with content on the internet.
Absolutely.
And things that are directed into those countries to try to create better
Relations.
on the ground. And so, those kinds of things have been pretty much closed off to our people. And but as we see things shifting, as we see the continent of Africa becoming more of a focus for economic development, we're going to need people that look exactly like you, and the people that you hire behind those cameras. And I've seen your staff, and you're talking about BMWs, black men working.
That's right.
It's really a joy to see. And so, serving on the Armed Services Committee as I do, I'm going to be looking for opportunities that you can step into and be prepared to take advantage of as a young up-and-coming businessman in a field such as this one, technology.
Absolutely.
And also content.
Absolutely.
That content piece.
Absolutely. Powerful.
So you've got the hardware, and you're working on the software.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's right.
Absolutely.
So you know that I'm going to be here to help you, and we have to get our fair share.
That's right. That's right, Congressman. And that's what we want to hear here at NBTV, of course, from yourself as one of the nation's leaders, one of the state's leaders as it relates to politics and affairs as it relates to business, We definitely love to hear our congressman represent our district in a way that we can begin to know that you're interested in putting citizens in the community to work to make not only their families better, but ultimately to make the world better. That's what this is all about. That's the true American spirit. That's what we're looking for in leaders like yourself. And we definitely enjoy you here live on NBTV, letting the people know that change is coming, folks. And the congressman has said it, folks, right here on NBTV. Is there any parting shots, any closing remarks that you would like to let our community know?
Yeah, I would want to point out the fact that your industry, which is media, there has been a concentration of outlets for information. And so with that consolidation comes almost a unification of message. And that is something that the free market system will change. So whenever things consolidate and the big become so big that they stop focusing on some of the niche areas,
Absolutely.
then that means it's an opportunity for small entities to come up, and that's exactly what you're doing. And so I think it's very important that people are able to get information from various sources. Don't stick with one.
That's right.
Go to some of the alternatives and see what people on the ground, real people on the ground, not stars and media personalities,
Absolutely.
but actually people on the ground.
Grassroots.
If you can, that's right, if you can find outlets that focus on those groups, and then you can get your information that you can use to either compare or supplement or however you view it, but it adds to that menu adds to your delight as far as the mental meal that you are consuming. And we need to always be eating mentally. And so go around the world and get some different flavors. And that's what you are doing with NBTV.
I appreciate it, Congressman. I mean, we're right here live in District 4, DeKalb County, in the state of Georgia.
And look, I must stop you because DeKalb is my main county, but I also represent all of Rockdale County.
Powerful.
And one half of Newton County.
And Sniffville.
And I have a fair amount of Gwinnett County. So I'm kind of a multi-county type of guy at this point, and represent those areas proudly.
We're here in DeKalb in his office, though, folks.
There you go.
Live on NBTV, of course, and it has been a pleasure, Congressman, having this opportunity to interview you. And we definitely look forward to many more opportunities, of course, as NBTV continues to grow, as you continue to lead us as the great leader that you are, dealing with, of course, President Obama and all of the very many leaders around the country. It has truly been a pleasure here today, and I thank you once again.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes, sir.
You know, we met and you interviewed me up in Washington, D.C., and we did not know each other.
Absolutely.
And you're right up the road from me.
I knew that, though.
Huh?
I knew that.
Yeah, well, hey, I'm glad you finally made me aware of it. And I think that there's a lot that we're going to do as we move forward.
I thank you, Congressman. Right here live on NBTV. Stay tuned.
This has been an NBTV production. Why? Because we care.